Hey, Don Klassen here again. And today I would like to talk about the subject, why the United States is the beast empire of the last days. The prophecies of the Bible speak of an empire to arise in the last days that is the seat or the home of the coming Antichrist of Revelation. We see this prefigured in two places in Daniel 2 and Daniel 7, which speak of 5 great empires in world history, the last of which is into the future and is destroyed by the second coming of Jesus Christ. That's why we are aware as the empire that is existing at the time of Christ's return. In Daniel chapter 2, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has a dream, and Daniel interprets it for him. And he sees this man, a big person out standing somewhere, and he has a head of gold, a chest of silver, a belly of brass, legs of iron, and toes of iron and clay mixed together, feet and toes of iron and clay. And Daniel goes ahead and explains to him that he, Nebuchadnezzar, is this head of gold, that his kingdom, his empire, the Babylonian empire of that time, is the head of gold. So most people interpret the rest of it as meaning that the chest of silver are the Medo-Persian empire that conquered Babylon, followed by Alexander the Great, due to the certain details about his Grecian empire later on. And then the iron is representative of the Roman Empire, which was quite devastating to the earth. And so it's often assumed in Bible prophecy circles that since the feet are made of iron and clay, mixed with clay, that means that this will be kind of a revival of the old Roman Empire. It's a geographical clue of some kind. I don't agree with that at all. In fact, in the prophecy, Daniel explains to the king that the iron and the clay represent strength and weakness, and that also it's referring to a nation that is a great multitude of nations, a nation of nations. I think that the actual term used is that they shall mix themselves with a multitude of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron and clay do not cleave one to another. And it also is described as, an empire that's partly strong and partly broken. And this is very much descriptive of the United States, because we are a military empire. We have 800 military bases and more outside the United States. At one point during the Bush-Cheney years, we had up to 1,000 around the world outside the U.S. borders. Russia only has about 6, I think, maybe, and China 1 or 2. And there's no other nation that has anything close to us, not even in world history. And we have committed so much to our military to back up our desire to spread democracy and a trade network around the world, both of which are good things, actually. But we do it in these tactics in a Machiavellian way that there's mixed motives, like grabbing other people's resources, or we will put a dictator in there in order to get our way under this realpolitik mentality that this is the best we can do or whatever. And so it's a very mixed message that is sent to the world, and that's why the U.S. is also described in Revelation verses chapter 16 through 18 as the great Babylon of the last days. And so, because it's a land of confusion, Babylon is a city that was built around the Tower of Babel. Babel in the Hebrew means confusion. That's where God confused the languages of the nations to get them to stop building that tower to the sky to try to overtake heaven, which you can't do because heaven's not in the physical dimension anyhow. But this is how they were thinking, and it upset God very much, the attitude. So, at any rate, so you have this. Most prophecy starts out with Daniel chapter 2 and interpreting it this way, and it leaves them at a dead end, because the European Union has no stomach for it to become an empire, and or a super state, but they have this fantasy that the there's a World War III, and out of this, the U.S. is knocked off the world stage, and Europe rises as superstate in its place. Now this comes as this leader. There's a kind of lefty New Ager type, and he becomes the head of the UN maybe, or whatever. But he turns into a monster later on. It's all fantasy, in my opinion. We have an empire right here in the world now, the United States. It's going to be here through the tribulation. It isn't destroyed until the very end. In fact, in Revelation 18, you see a description of the destruction of New York City, which is the virtual capital of the United States. And so there's that there. Then in Jeremiah 50 and 51, you have a much more excruciating detail about the destruction of the heartland and the whole country. And there's all these exhortations to come out of Babylon, to, just for your own safety, or for your to evangelize the world during the great harvest of the Great Tribulation. So this is what we're apparently heading for. The latest news coming out of Ukraine is that Putin is not backing off in any way. He's doubling down. He's killing children now. He's hitting maternity wards. He's hitting civilians deliberately. He's trying to terrorize the population to get them to surrender. He's willing to destroy all their buildings. He's willing to commit genocide. He's cracking down on dissent at home. He's calling his own people insects who don't go along with this crazy scheme of his. He's arresting some of his own intel officers. He's really going off the deep end, and there's no indication he's going to stop. And people who have known him very well. In fact, I'll post a link to a fascinating interview, a PBS interview with Julia Eihoff, a Putin expert. If you want to watch that, you'll learn a lot about this man and about his psychology, his background, all this sort of thing. Things that I didn't realize how off the deep end he really is. I never trusted him. Always smirking and smug, and I'm a very sadistic kind of a person. Well, this war has really brought this out in him in great measure, and he and Donald Trump are soul brothers. And he's, like I said in previous editions, I think he did this to partly crack the West altogether, get Trump in there, and have this future of an autocratic nightmare world that he thinks is progressive. Going back to the Middle Ages and to besiege warfare and to the brutality and it's just a insane backwards mentality. And so, in spite of all of our faults, the United States at this moment is still a far preferable system of government, the democracy and the freedoms and stuff that we enjoy here, and yet the people caterwaul no end about everything under the sun. And it seems that it's the right wing that is bringing about this cracking, they will not cleave one to another in this nation of nations, because the right wing wants a purified white Christian country and not this highly variegated, multi-ethnic, multi-religious nation that we have become, which is like a mini United Nations. And they could be, if they wanted to be, a good example to the world this way, but it's causing a civil war. It's heading in that kind of direction. And there's people that just do not understand how they're fulfilling this prophecy by acting this way. So this is a very dangerous situation, and we have to be astute in our interpretations of these things. The last days empire, in my opinion, is the United States. Now, especially after this Antichrist arises to power, the descriptions in Daniel 7 about it biting and devouring the whole earth, and having great iron teeth and nails of brass, and stamping out the residue of those who escape from its grasp, is going to be especially the case under the Antichrist. The United States will become an even more oppressive empire. We will go after people in the south. Well, Brazil is partly aligned with the Russia-China axis now, and he will push toward the east as well, and toward the Pleasant Land, meaning the Israel and the Middle East. And this is all, just it's all there. But it's not going to be a European lefty kind of an Antichrist. It's going to be a right-wing American leader. And I don't need to tell you who that is. And that's what I want to develop in the next edition, is after establishing, I hope in your mind, the idea that the U.S. is this mystery entity. In Daniel 2, Daniel 7, and also in 8 and 11 it's mentioned a little bit. And in Revelation 16 through 18 and other parts of the Bible, Jeremiah 50 and 51, you will see descriptions of this nation. It's not, we're not missing in the prophecies, we're front and center in them, but we're just veiled in these mystery clues. And the U.S. and Israel are the two central nations of the prophecies in the last days, and what happens to them. And it's quite a drama. And I just want to establish that so the next time we can talk about who is this Antichrist character, what are the clues given in the Bible. And so you will have at least a basic knowledge and orientation of what's going on here, because this, I don't see any way this is not going to escalate to World War III at this point. Any peace overtures are, as many officials are saying, just stalling tactics. I think Secretary Blinken mentioned that Putin isn't serious about this. I don't think he is either. In fact, he seems to be mimicking things that the West has done for a long time. And when he stalls like this, he's kind of mimicking the Netanyahu years, especially with the peace talks with the Palestinians. They were never really serious about them. They were just stalling tactics to grab more settlement land in the process, until finally they're so broken and moved out of place that they have nothing left to negotiate with or hope for. And then Trump came in, of course, and just gave them nothing, just gave everything to the Israelis. And there's other aspects, there's ways in which he's mimicking the West and mocking us. With the cruelty, he says, the United States bombed Iraq and mercilessly, and he's right, That was a sovereign nation we attacked, and we had no warrant. We said there was weapons of mass destruction. There was none. It was all lies. And so his attitude seems to be, this is my turn to do the same things, Well, two wrongs don't make a right. And here in this country, there's plenty of opposition to these kinds of tactics by our government. But they're not coming from the right wing. The paranoia and the conspiracy theories are, some of which are true, but most of which are wrong. And they're always blaming the wrong people. But most of the reform-minded people are from the Democratic side who don't want to see the United States act this way. But still, we want to see us spread democracy. But this is a very difficult situation, because Ukraine is a real tender spot because of Russia's history and because of their geography and their place. In regards to NATO's expansion east, and yet NATO represents the free West, and so we're really in for it. There's a big crunch coming, and I hope I'm wrong, because as much as I just don't enjoy the prophecies. I mean, they're very, very disturbing to me, but I have to respect the Word of God, and I have to teach what it says as best I understand it. There is no magical empire that's going to appear out of nowhere within a couple of few years under the hand of a magical left-wing New Age peacenik. It just doesn't add up at all. So I hope this has gotten you thinking about this and studying some more and preparing for this time to come. You got to prepare the most in your mind and spiritually. The worst fears are fears of the unknown. When you know what's going on, at least you're not surprised by it and you can deal with it better. And so I hope that this gets out there and that people will take it to heart. I thank you for listening.